Good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ. Welcome to another testimonial interview today. I'll be joined by brother Brett Pixley. I know him from Calvary Life in Gardena. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed.
Good. Did you training already or no?
No, not yet.
Not yet. No, me too.
I got a little bit of a couple other chores I got to do. I got to do some things before I do that.
So, like I mentioned, I know brother Brett from our church. I met him in one of the men's fellowship. I think Ken. He was like, "Oh, I want you to meet somebody." And then from there, we kind of started talking a little bit after that. And one of the things was you're into fitness also. So that's always good. Faith and fitness is a big thing that I've been trying to push. And as you know, that's what we're trying to do at the church as well. So cool. So give us a quick 30, 60-second introduction, your name, where you're from, are you married, do you have any kids? What do you do for work? Just a quick intro, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Brett Pixley. I'm originally from Northern California. I was born and raised in a little small country town called Lockford. It's like 15, 20 minutes away from like the Lodi, Stockton area, out in the middle of nowhere. Been in Long Beach for the past 5 years now. I'm married. Been with my wife for 3 years, but we've been together for almost 10. I have a little toddler, a son. He's ready about to be 19 months. I work right here at the oil refinery in Wilmington, like Long Beach, Wilmington line. I work in the coker unit. I've been doing that. In August, it'll be 2 years, but I've done everything. I've done a bunch of construction, jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's pretty much about it.
Awesome. So let's start from the beginning. Tell us about your upbringing. Where did you grow up as a child? You have any brothers and sisters? Roughly, let's talk about from birth to about 5 years old. Tell us about what was going on in that part of the life, what you remember. Your upbringing, family, siblings, and all that.
So born and raised up in a little small town called Lockford, only about 2,000 people. I have one brother and two sisters, so 3 siblings, 4 total, including me. My mom and dad were both there in the picture. Earliest I can remember, my mom and dad were really loving from 0 to 5. That I can remember. Some dysfunction like everything else, but other than that, I had a good, upbringing when I was like a toddler. Okay. Things didn't start going bad until I was older, but from 0 to 5, everything was good. Other than, playing with my brothers and sisters, my older sister and older brother older than me. My older sister, she's like 6 years older than me. My older brother, he's 4 years older than me. And then my little sister, we're really close. She's only 1.5 years younger than me. But so everything was pretty wholesome.
So you're the second youngest, second to, right? Okay.
Third goes my older sister, my older brother, and then me, and then my little sister.
Okay. Cool. And what kind of kid would you say you were at that time?
I was an outgoing, loving kid for the most part. When you ever since I can remember, you put a ball in my hand, I was really competitive with any ball, any type of like competitive game. Mm-hmm. I had to be number one. I had to prove to myself and to others. Pretty much at that point, I didn't know what it was like proving to myself. I just wanted to prove to everybody else that I could beat you, or that I'm going to try to beat you. And if you beat me, I'm going to do what I could later on to get better at it, to beat you at some point. And I remember that as a young kid, like, yeah, I love sports. I love the whole competitive nature of like, just trying to be number one at that age, until you start to evolve later on in the years, and the bigger picture of competitiveness comes into play.
Okay, cool. Tell me about your elementary days. Same thing. How was the family? How were you as a kid?
Yeah, elementary. When I first got into elementary school, it was kind of rough because I was a heavier set kid. I was really chunky. I used to get made fun of a lot. I think that's what also brought out my competitive nature. There's 2 main kids that used to bully me and make fun of me, call me fat and tublard, and just they had never really gotten in too many fights. I got in a couple fights, but it wasn't really over bullying. They were more just making fun of. There was a couple times where it did happen, but I had good friends though too. I had other good friends that I hung around with an elementary school that was, for the most part, wholesome. It was just the bullying now and then. Brought out the they depression at that age. Just I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why these kids were like, in my eyes, trying to tear me down or bring me down for no reason, because I never did that.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised that way. My mom always told me to love other people and to help other people and to be there for other people. So that's one memory that's always stuck with me. I mean, I have good memories of, uh, playing with my friends and doing things with my friends, and then the bullies. So
Did
out in
you
the
ever?
country though, there's not too many things to do. You go to school and afterwards you go and ride your bike, and out and living out in the country, you find things to do. So it was like you build, forts, you go, make some dirt jumps, and ride your bike and jump, and
Yeah.
you go explore. Like we grew up right next to a river, so we would always go. That was later on when I was a little bit older, but
Mhm.
elementary school, that's still what we did. We rode around on our bikes and just explored, and yeah.
Times have changed, huh? Now kids want to be on their tablets and their phones 24/7. They don't want to go out and do nothing, man. Ugh.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and but
I mean, adults
ultimately,
too. Adults are the same way.
right. Even me, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm looking at my phone, I'm like, I've been on my phone for like 20 minutes just scrolling, and it's just eating time away at your life. And there's way more things that you could do where you could, enjoy life and impact others rather than just being on your phone scrolling 24/7. But it's sad even more for kids, because I feel
Yeah.
that kids should have more of a stronger community-based upbringing rather than being isolated on their
Kids
phone
are now don't know how to
24/7.
talk. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to interact. It's all
No,
weird because it's all this.
right.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. Now the bullying. Did you ever tell your parents about it?
Oh yeah. Oh
What they say?
yeah. I would come home because my dad didn't get off work until late. So the first person that I would tell is my mom, and I would come home a lot of times crying, literally like bawling. And she would just tell me, it's okay, Brett. Like she would, be there to comfort me. And she'd always tell me, don't worry, they're going to get theirs. Like, you don't want to hit them. You don't want to fight them. You don't want to do anything like that. And part of me wanted to. And I
Yeah.
did end up at one point, like they kept on bullying me until the point I just couldn't take it anymore. And I literally beat up the two kids that beat up me. I was a strong, husky kid. I was really athletic. Even my mom, when my sister and I would get in fights, we would get in some not crazy fights, but we would hit each other sometimes. I'd never hit my sister in the face, but hit her in the shoulder, like we would hit each other. And my mom would say, you never hit your sister, you don't know your strength. And yeah, I didn't know my strength back then. For being a huskier kid, I was really athletic and quick because of my competitive nature. So yeah, I would come home crying all the time. She'd be the first one, but my mom, my dad, he would tell me, hey, if you need to defend yourself, if they're gonna, ever try to hit you or anything, then you know what I mean. Don't be afraid to hit them back. That's just how my dad was. But because, like, I understand, like, it's not good. Bullying's not good, and violence isn't the answer. But like, there comes a point where the school system or the parents aren't doing anything to control their kid, and if they're gonna fight, if they're gonna try to hit my kid, or if I was in my position, like I'm not gonna tell my kid just to like not just get beat up. You know what I mean? At least defend yourself. That's just me.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Let's move forward. What about junior high? How was it junior high at the time?
That was junior high was cool. The bullying stopped around junior high, around 7th grade.
Okay.
My brother started working out at a young age. My brother got a little like weight set in our backyard, or my dad bought it. My dad bought it at a garage sale, and it was actually a decent sized weight set. It had, the regular bench. It had the leg raises. So when you want to post it up, you can do leg raises on it too. And then it had the squat rack behind it, so you could do like squats and different types of like leg exercises where you can put the bar up like that. So, and then we had some dumbbells. So around that time, my brother, he was always in the backyard working out. And so I started to kind of work out with him here and there. And my brother was like the black sheep of the family. So
Mm.
do you want me to give you a whole picture of like my family and my school and like just like my
Yeah,
whole
just
life?
the main things, main things.
Okay.
Just,
So yeah, my brother, he was like the black sheep of the family. He started making some bad choices
mm,
in at a young age. He started smoking weed and drinking.
mhm.
I stayed away from that because I just love sports. I
Okay.
started playing football around, fifth, sixth grade. And so yeah, football, baseball, basketball, that was the main sports that I played at that time. But my brother, he started getting into smoking weed and drinking. So I'm 4 years younger than him. I'm not really close in age with my brother, like 2 years or 3 years. It's
Mhm.
4. So when he was 16, I was 12. So usually, for the most part, you don't want a little
Yeah.
12-year-old kid running around when you're 16, So, and plus on top of that, I think ultimately he didn't want me to do what he was doing because he was starting to go down a path that affected him even to this day. Um, and so, yeah, I was close to my brothers and my sisters and as a family, for the most part early in childhood. And then my brother started going down his own path. And you could tell a lot of times he didn't like going to family events, never like taking
Mm.
family pictures. He kind of was like the outcast. Even though he would still be there for us, but he didn't like to engage in like um family outings. I mean, I grew up poor slash middle class. You know what I mean? We didn't have a lot of money. My mom and dad worked really hard to just barely put food on the table sometimes. So anytime like my mom would try to take us on like a little road trip, he never wanted to go. My older sister, she would. My little sister, she definitely would. My little sister and I, growing up, we were like best friends. But and my dad, he worked really hard. He would always go to our family outings for the most part early in our childhood, and then later on he kind of started distancing himself.
Mhm.
So but yeah, school was cool. Like I mentioned, that's when the bullying stopped because I beat up the kids that used to bully me. Like I put a beating on them and they never messed with me again after that. So I think that was another time too where it was like, okay, like, if I need to defend myself or do something where it's actually going to be put in my hands and I have to do it, like I can
Yeah.
actually hurt somebody. And I don't want to, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, ultimately, but like that kind of opened up my eyes like, oh, okay, I can actually do something and these people are going to stop. But
How
yeah,
were you
junior
as a
high, everything was
How
cool.
were you as a student? Like, did you get good grades?
Oh yeah, I was for the most part growing up in elementary. Yeah, elementary and junior high, I always tried to strive to get good grades. I loved learning. It was in high school where I started to kind of get a little lazy. I just, like my mom always said, like, I would come home and have good report cards in junior high. And it was not till high school where I started getting a little lazy. And she'd say, "You need to apply yourself. That's all you need to do is apply yourself. You're a smart kid. You're not applying yourself. You can get better grades than this." But I
Yeah.
always got decent grades.
Okay. Cool. Let's segue now to high school. How was high school life? Like, were any changes? Any negative changes?
Oh
Anything?
yeah.
Okay. So what
Family
happened?
wise, was the big impact. Um,
What happened?
so high school was cool. Um, I was still kind of a husky kid, just so I can kind of give you a background. So I was still kind of a husky kid going into high school, but I liked, like I mentioned, I still liked working out. So I started working out in seventh grade, eighth grade, and I loved just working out. And I had like muscle and fitness magazines and stuff like that, like the old school Arnold magazines. And but in high school, played football. I wrestled instead of playing basketball, and I did track and field instead of baseball. Like I loved baseball. It was just, I think it was just kind of almost too boring for me, where I needed something a little bit more like just like active. You know what I mean? I,
Yeah.
I played left field, so I didn't like just standing out there waiting for the ball to hit. You know what I mean? I want to be doing something. Um, and so football, I played my freshman year. I was first string offense, first string defense, first string kick return, first string punt return, like kick return, kick off, like everything. And so this was the cool thing that I remember also. But so elementary and junior high, I was a lineman because I was heavier. I was right
Mm.
guard. And I actually didn't make weight. Sorry, not trying to backtrack too much, but when I was in seventh grade, I couldn't make the weight class for the novice or like the JV. So I was over like 18 pounds because they have a weight limit in Northern California. I don't know if they
Oh,
still
wow.
do because it's been so many years. Yeah, you could only be like 155 pounds, I
Was
think.
this I don't know what you guys called it, but Pop,
Pop
well, we
Warner.
call it Pop Warner,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Is
Yeah.
that what it was?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we still had
Uh-huh.
that too. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah, and I couldn't make weight in 7th grade. So it's either 7th or 8th grade. I couldn't make weight. I couldn't make the weight. I was like I think the weight limit was like 155 and I was like 175 or 180. It might have been
Mhm.
more than that. I might have been 185. I was a thick husky kid. And so they ended up bumping me up to varsity because I
Okay.
couldn't make the weight. So it kind of toughened me up a little bit because these are the older kids that I'm playing with. So it kind of got me to, even get a little tougher. And I never stopped. I never quit. Even a lot of times I wanted to, I'm like, no, I'm not going to quit this. I just never wanted to. I had that competitive like desire, that nature in there just to be better. So yeah, now back in high school, played football, and instead of playing right guard, at a certain point, I started losing a lot of weight because I really started getting into fitness and working out. And my lineman coach, he told me, hey, you're kind of getting a little too small for right guard and you're quick. He's like, why don't we try moving you to fullback? And I was like, shoot, I'll do it. I'll run with the ball. I'll run some people over, So, and that was like my dream ever since, watching the 49ers play when I was really young. I've always dreamed of scoring a touchdown, like running with the ball, being like this husky kid. It's like you see these running backs, like, man, I wish I could do that. And it ended up happening, and then they moved me to middle linebacker because I was left tackle also for defense, but they started moving me to middle linebacker because I was pretty quick for my size. And then I did that. But that's where it kind of opened up my eyes. Like, you can really build this type of drive in your life to make changes or to do something that you didn't think that you could do ultimately. And I noticed that in high school. But other than that, yeah, high school is really good. As far as like school. So the family is where things started getting really, really crazy. Really dysfunctional. I mean, there was dysfunction in the house already, like mom and dad argued. I was raised Catholic, but I never had a relationship with God.
Okay.
I knew who Jesus was. I knew what he did for me on the cross. All like the basics of like Christianity, but I never read the word of God. I never prayed. There's just, and this is not to talk down on the Catholic Church, but I've heard a lot of testimonies that are like that from people coming out of the Catholic churches. It's very ritual and traditional.
Yeah.
We would pray before dinner, but it was the same prayer. And that's not to talk crap, anything like that. It's just, I feel like in the Catholic Church, you're limited to a certain degree of like your relationship with God, which, don't get me wrong, there's also people that do find God in the Catholic Church. They learn how to pray and they read their Bible. My grandmother was a perfect example of that. She went to her women's groups and she read the Bible all the time. She had things highlighted, like she studied the word, but that was never like incorporated into my life. Like no one ever sat down with me or told me like, look, we got to read the Bible. We got to learn what it says. We got to understand that this is the word of God and really teach it to me and really, disciple me or really incorporate that into my life. So
Right.
I never knew really how to pray. I just knew the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, and I knew the Hail Mary. And anytime I get into trouble, those were the prayers that I prayed to get me out of trouble. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, so that was, so look to give you a little bit of background as far as like church wise with God in my life. But I never had a relationship with God.
Okay. So did your family end up splitting or?
So yeah, crazy things started happening. So like I mentioned, my brother, he was the black sheep. He started getting into experimenting with other drugs. He started getting into crystal meth.
Yeah.
My older sister, and like all my family members are really smart. That's the crazy thing. It's not like they're uneducated or like they weren't guided with making the right choices, because they did for the most part. Like my mom and dad were always there, trying to guide us as much as they can. My dad, though, he wasn't like a church man. He never went to church at all. It was just my mom taking us kids. So I didn't have like a good, strong father figure that was putting Christ as the center of their life,
Right.
sort of say. He worked hard. I love my dad, and he has a lot of issues still to this day. So yeah, my brother ended up getting addicted to crystal meth. My older sister, when she graduated from high school, she started going into the club and party scene, and she started experimenting with ecstasy and cocaine.
Man.
And then she ended up getting addicted to crystal meth. And then my little sister, yeah, my little sister, and this was during high school. I was 16 years old when this started happening. So it was a big, like, crazy experience. And then my little sister, she started experimenting with painkillers in high school, like, basically like oxycodones and Vicodins and stuff like that. And me, I was just dedicated on being the best version of myself playing sports. I really wanted to try to make it to the NFL, which is like everybody's kid's dream when they are young. So yeah, that had a big impact on my life, a big impact on my life, a big negative impact. I was the Superman of the household. Like if there were any fights that was going on, I was always the one breaking it up. If there was an argument that was going on, I was always the one trying to get in the middle of it to break it up. I was like, quote unquote, like the golden child. And so, yeah, it was just, I could get in some crazy stories and you would be like, what? Yeah, just gnarly stuff. I mean, like stuff that I don't wish anything on, like, quote on, like, people say I don't wish it on my enemy, sort of say, just like crazy dysfunction, crazy fights. As soon as like my brother started doing his thing and my sister started doing her thing. And then my dad, he ended up getting into a bad motorcycle accident, and he was disabled. He was on disability. He wasn't like disabled. He didn't break his leg or anything like that. But from the accident, he got put on disability. So he couldn't work for like 6 months or a year. So my dad started hanging around the wrong people, and he ended up started using meth. And then at some point, he ended up starting selling meth out of our garage.
Man.
Yeah, like just, yeah, this is what, it's a big, huge part of my testimony. I tell people and they're like, dang, what? So yeah, there were times where I would come home from school, or not school, sometimes after football games, I would go hang out on the weekend, or, go out and maybe have like a couple drinks underage, in your high school. And so I would come home and try to sneak in, because my curfew on the weekends was like 11, and I would come in like 12:30, and I would try to sneak in through the garage and open up the door and like, I hoping he's awake. Nope, my dad's awake with his homeboy right there, freaking on a sick one. Yeah. And he doesn't even care that I'm coming home late. He's like, hey, what's going on, Brett? What are you doing? Just talking to me, and he's just working on his motorcycle. So yeah, it was a big turn of events during that time. When I was 16-ish was when it started happening. And then it just started evolving into more chaos from there, as far as like in the household. So my mom, she has never done a drug in her life. Maybe she smoked weed when she was younger, but she's never gotten into an addiction. She doesn't even really drink. So there was just all this pressure on my mom of trying to bring the family together. And I feel for my mom, because she has gone through so much. I know that moms go through a lot, but if you can imagine a house full of addicts in your house, and like this just happened out of nowhere. Obviously it evolved over some time, and she's just trying to help straighten everybody out and get them together. And it's just so much. Yeah, my mom has
How did all of this affect you? Did you start to change in some way?
I started to I still loved my family members, and I knew what was going on, but I didn't really focus on it too much, because it was like, which is weird. I almost kind of to like disassociate, not that I didn't talk to him, but I just didn't keep it in my head. I didn't worry too much about it in my head that much. Like it was there. I knew it was there, but I was so focused on me, which is probably kind of like a good sense in a way of like being the best version of me as far as sports. Because I wrestled also, and I did track and field. So I was always busy. I never had downtime to really focus on what's going on in the house, because I really didn't want to. So I just focused a lot on my sports during high school. And so I knew what was going on. Yeah, I knew that it probably affected me. I just didn't look at it. You know what I mean? I just put it down way below, didn't talk about it. Some of my friends knew what was going on, but the cool thing was they were still my friends. It's not like they're like, oh, your house is full of a bunch of drug addicts, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I had some real friends that were like there for me, that would still even come and hang out at my house, and then stuff would start to go on. I'd be like, come on, let's get out of here. Let's go.
Okay, cool. So what happened after high school? Let's say 18 to 21.
So I went to junior college, and I still play football, so I did. And I had a big ego, even though I really didn't show it. I had a massive ego, always trying to be number one, or being number one at the position that I was in sports. Excuse me. So I got to junior college, and I wanted to play football. And when you get in the junior college that I went to in Northern California, we were in the like top sections of teams, in high school. So when kids went to this junior college, it was like the top kids that didn't make it to, the big leagues. And as far as like section 1, 2 colleges. So it was really competitive, and I wanted to play really bad, and I wasn't able to, just because either there was somebody better than me at the time, because there's the older kids that are there. So I ended up quitting. Instead of working harder, I was like, I'm just going to quit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to keep on fighting all these guys, which was crazy in a sense. And I don't know if part of this maybe had something to do with my family. At some point I had to work part-time, so that could have been also. I never actually really looked at it and been like, hey, was it just because I wanted to quit, or was there some other outside factors that were involved in the situation where it kind of like made me want to quit? Was the family part of the reason? Since my dad didn't want to work at most point, this was in high school, I would even work part-time to make a little bit of money after playing all my sports and doing everything, and help my mom out with the rent here and there, because my dad wasn't providing. So, I mean, that could have been part of it too. Could have just been a mixture of things, but part of it, I just wanted to quit, and, I didn't want to deal with trying to be that top guy anymore, because the competitive nature in junior college for football was really high. So I ended up working at I started my first job. I worked at a hay and grain place up in Northern California, where they basically provide grain and hay and different types of products for like ranches and farms. And so I used to buck hay and pack feed all the time and deliver it to different ranches and farms out in Northern California. And I ended up working full-time doing that, and ended up becoming an assistant manager. And then the railroad, Union Pacific, was hiring at that moment. And so my mom told me about it, and she said, hey, Union Pacific's hiring. That's a great job. That's a career. Like, why don't you apply? And so I had a family friend that was a neighbor of ours that grew up from me down the street. And he worked for Union Pacific, and he was a maintenance division. So he worked on a lot of the tracks. So he'd known me for ever since I was born, and I used him as a reference. And then this is, I'm not trying to like take too much of your time. I know we've already been talking a lot.
Don't worry.
So this is just a cool story how I got my job with the railroad. So I was driving to work, my main spot that I go every single day, because there was 3 different stores basically that provided the hay and the grain and everything. And so I was driving to work, and they call me on the cell phone, and my manager's like, hey, don't come to Lockford, go to Galt, which is the other city where the other store is in. And so I'm like, what? And so, okay, I'm like, and so as I was driving over to Galt, the Galt store, I had to stop because there was a train that was crossing the road, and the arms went down, and this train started going across, and it was going super slow, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, man, what's going on with this train? Like, come on, like, I got to get to work. And so finally the train passes, but it actually really started to get me thinking, like, I wonder what it's like working for the railroad. Mm-hmm. And so I get to the Galt store because they really need my help, because I guess 2 people called in sick, and that's why they needed me there. And I get to work, and I start working at work. And I guess that they had to, so there was railroad tracks right next to the store that I worked at. So they were working, the maintenance division was working on the tracks right there, right next to the store. And so this guy came in I still remember his name. His name was Thor Gunderson. He was from, I think, Downey, Idaho. Like, I still remember it to this day. And I was working, I was at the register just doing my thing. And he came up to me and he says, "Hey, do you have any like candy bars or anything that's, sweets here?" And I was like, "No, man, this is a haying grain place for like animals." I was like, "We don't have anything like that here." And he goes, "All right." And he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, would you ever want to better yourself, like better your life?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, if there's an opportunity there, definitely." And then he told me, he was like, "The railroad is really hiring right now." He was like, "If you put in your application," he was like, "I'll let you use me as a reference." And I was like, "What?" And so it was like I had my neighbor and then I had this guy, and it was just out of nowhere. It was really like, it was a miracle. It was like a God thing. Like God was pulling strings for this to happen. And so, because it's really hard to get into the railroad. It's really, really hard. And so I went through the whole interview process and passed and started working for the railroad and started making really good money. And living life ultimately, in my eyes now, not the way I should have been, because ultimately, I mean, I feel like we have to put Christ first. So I wasn't doing that. I didn't have God in my life. So every time we'd go out, whether it was clubbing or going to the bar, I was buying everybody's drinks, and because I was the man with a good job. And so yeah, that's basically it. I had a girlfriend at the time, and just traveling here and there and working for the railroad. That was like my title, if I could say. I was just Brett that has a good job that works for the railroad. You know what I mean? It was, and I didn't have any really good people around me at that time either. I just kind of separated myself, and I wouldn't say isolated, but I never had any like good mentors or people involved at that time in my life that I could look up to or like surround myself with. Just because all the stuff that happened in my life, I had to grow up at a young age.
Yeah.
It was like, look, this is what's going on. You're either going to grow up and you're going to take it, or you're going to keep on just putting one foot in front of the next, or you're not, you're going to give up, or, whatever's going to take place. So I had to really grow up fast. So it made me kind of like a lone wolf. I could just get through life with, at that time, whatever was thrown at me, and just keep on moving and keep on shoving. Like I didn't need anything. I didn't need anybody. I didn't need God. It was just, I've already gone through all this stuff. I don't need any, you know what I mean? It was just that type of mentality where it was like, it was cool if I had friends that were there that I would hang out with and they were good, cool. But if not, it was just like, it's all good because,
So let me ask you this. What happened first? Meeting your wife? You finally serving the Lord, or you moving down the Long Beach area?
Yeah, so that didn't happen until way later on down the road, because I was around 20. I was around 9. Was 19 when I got my job, and then I was 24 when I lost it. So
how'd you lose it, or why'd you lose it?
It's another crazy story. So finally, the golden child that used to make the right choices started partying too much. And in 2008, when the economy hit, they started cutting jobs left and right at the railroad, and I didn't have that good a seniority. And so I was in the process around 2000. I got hired in 2006. In 2008 is when they started kind of lowly cutting jobs. In 2010, they started cutting crazy amounts of jobs. So they basically, you had to chase your seniority, meaning wherever I couldn't hold in that city where I lived, like my seniority. So I had to relocate and chase your seniority. Whatever city you could hold as far as work as in the job, you had to go like work there. And so I was single at the time. I had a girlfriend, but it didn't really matter. I was like more focused on just working. So it was like, I'm going to go wherever I have to go. I don't care. I'm not going to lose this job. And then at some point, then they finally cut more jobs, and I got laid off, like not permanent yet, but like laid off to where I couldn't even hold any jobs anywhere. So I couldn't even work. So I had been going to a bunch of bars and clubs during that time. And I told myself I'd never touch any drugs, since I saw what happened to my family. I was totally against it. I was like, I'm never going to be like them, ultimately God has a different plan. So I started experimenting with cocaine, and I started experimenting with cocaine, started experimenting with ecstasy, never really touched meth too much here and there. I haven't experimented with that. I was just such at a low point where it was like losing my job. My family's not even together anymore. Like we didn't really talk to each other anymore. I started hanging around the wrong people. And then I had a buddy that came up to me since I was really desperate on making money. And he said, "Hey, there's this stuff on the streets. It's called Oxycontin and it's really expensive." He was like, "But if you have money saved up from the railroad," he was like, "you can buy a bunch of it and start selling." And yeah, didn't have good people in my corner to like help steer me in the right direction. I was desperate. And so I dropped a bunch of money on a bunch of prescriptions where he knew people and started buying pills by the bottle, 100-pill Oxycontin pills, and started selling them out on the streets. And it was just this whole new environment that I just threw myself into, where it was like, if I could go back, I could shake myself and be like, what are you doing? But the way that I look at it is like, if this didn't happen to me, I don't think I would have never found the Lord. I would have never found Jesus. If all these things that happened to me in my life, it all happened for a reason. It was to bring me to him. So I sold Oxycontin for a while, and then I started even selling more drugs, started selling meth, started selling Xanax. They started taking Oxycontin off the market. So I started using, and when I first started selling, I didn't use in the beginning. I was like, I'm just going to sell this stuff and make money. That didn't end up happening. About a year later, I started hanging around the people that were doing Oxycontin, and I started using it. And then that kind of numbed my pain of everything that I had been feeling my whole life of my, things happened in my family. And so it numbed me. It totally just took it away. Like when people say about Oxycontin and heroin, it's like a warm hug and you nod off and you don't really, feel anything. That's exactly what it's like. And so, yeah, they took Oxycontin off the market, and then it got to heroin. And so started using heroin. And then, it was just a big, big, crazy, crazy experience. I was, my mom, she didn't want me to live with her. You need me? Here you go. So my mom, she didn't want anything to do with that. So she was like, "You're not living here." So she kicked me out. And I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. And I still tried to stay there when I could. But she didn't want to deal with all the chaos that she'd been dealing with. First it was my dad, or first it was my brother, then my sister, then my little sister, then my dad, and then me. It was just like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I love you and I will always be here for you if you need help, but I can't do this. I'm not going to do it anymore. And so she ended up moving to Sacramento, and I just kept on running the streets. And I was at a very low point, and I had a bunch of drugs on me that I was selling in the car that I was in. And I had been up for like 3 nights. And I parked in this parking lot at a food store, at a grocery store, so I could basically just rest because I was so tired. And I did some heroin, and I nodded off, and I fell asleep in my car. And some people that were walking by, my car was not parked directly parallel. It was kind of like crooked a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the person that was walking by saw me, and he thought I was dead. I guess maybe he tried to wake me up. And so he called the cop. He called the ambulance, and the fire department showed up, and they probably knew what was going on because this is when the whole Oxycontin like epidemic had already started. So people nodding off. It was still kind of like a far away thing, but it was happening, but it wasn't like as intense as you see right now on the streets with like fentanyl and everything. They knew what was going on. They tried to get me out of the car. I got out of the car, and then it was weird. They were trying to keep me there. I could just sense that they were trying to keep me there because I knew that they probably called the sheriff because we don't have local PD. It's just the sheriff out there. It's out in the country, so it's like you got to wait for the sheriff to get there. So I didn't like what I was feeling, and because they were almost literally trying to like box me in. And so I grabbed my drugs and I tried to run, and they tackled me to the ground. Firefighters tackled me to the ground and held me there until the sheriff got there. And I went to jail for the first time. And this was the first time where I'd got caught previously with small amounts here and there. This is the first time I got caught with big amounts, like, I mean, large amounts. And so yeah, it was basically, long story short, the attorney that was working for me said that the best deal we could get is gives you 5 years, and then have a 3 year suspended sentence. Basically meaning I'd have to go do time for 2 years, and then I would have a 3 year suspended sentence hanging over my head. So when I got out, if I did the same or similar offense, I would go back. So I did my time. I'm an AB 109, so I never actually went to prison. I did a prison. It's technically a prison term, but I did it in county.
Okay.
It's all for nonviolent offenders, and so that was another experience. It was just this experience after experience until I got out, and then I thought I was going to do good. You know, I had this different mindset of like, I'm going to get back on, find a good job, and just work. Yeah, that didn't happen. It only took a amount of time. I started using again. I wasn't selling because I was kind of like afraid of what would happen if I went back. You know, I didn't want to do more time. So I started using, and then finally I hit my broken point where didn't have a car, nothing. I was literally homeless. I had my blue duffel bag with me, and I was at this McDonald's where I was living, and I was in the bench. I was on the bench where there's sometimes benches outside of McDonald's or like little fast food places. And I was just sitting there and I'm just crying. And I'm just like, man, what is going on? Like, how did I get here? Out of all places, how did I get to this moment? Like, it was just, I couldn't grasp what happened like to my life. And so I said, God, if you're real, like, just take me out of this. I don't want to be like this anymore. Like, just help me. Like, just, I don't want to be like this anymore. I just don't want to live like this. I'm just done. And literally like 30 seconds to a minute after I said that, there was this guy that came up to me, and he noticed me on the park bench, and he started asking me questions like, hey, what's going on? Just loving on me, you know, like, hey, what's going on, man? Are you okay? Like, can I do anything for you? You know, can I help you with anything? And I started telling him a little bit of my story about what was going on. And he told me about a program called Teen Challenge. I don't know if you heard of Teen Challenge before.
No.
So Teen Challenge it's a Christian-based program that helps men and women that struggle with drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
And it's a year-long program. The main headquarters is in Riverside right here.
Okay.
And it's a year-long program. It's really strict. You can't have your phone. Like, it's like Bible boot camp. And so I was so desperate that I was like, yeah, I'll go to this place. Like, yeah, I just don't want to be here anymore. And I hadn't like aligned everything back then, but this is how God was working, you know, and he needed me at my low point and to strip me everything in my life to where he could shine the light on himself, to where he would reveal himself. And then at that point, once I reflect, because I do a lot of reflection in my life, I can see where he was moving. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and putting everything in place. Mm-hmm. And so I told the guy that was trying to get me into this program, I was like, hey, like, this sounds great. Like, I want to do it, but I have no phone. I have no car. I can't do a bunch of the things that you're asking me to do because I can't go to this interview process, because there was like an interview process to go in. And so this guy calls his grandma and talks to his grandma, tells her my situation. And she allowed me to go to her house for 2 weeks to get me into this place. And she drove me to the program, to the interview, so I could get in. Yeah, it was crazy. And so once I got there, I did the whole year-long process of basically getting close with God. And that was my first encounter with God. Accepted God into my life and started learning about Jesus and what he's done for us, and the whole Bible and the Old Testament and the New Testament, and Apostle Paul and all the different, you know, disciples and everything. And so it was a whole process, but I loved it. And I got really close with God. And a part of me still kind of deals with this today. And it kind of sucks, because when you're secluded in an atmosphere like that, think about it, it's a group of men. There was 120 men at this program. And you're feeding yourself with Jesus every single day. Everybody's on like this spiritual high, which is a good thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You're getting close with God and learning scripture and being there, and you're praying and you're watching these prayers answered. And we're not doing anything. Like we're not even involved. We're just praying, and you see different families affected and different things happening. You get on like this spiritual high. And then once you exit the program, it's almost like a downer, because then the world hits you. You know, it's like, man, I want to go back to this program because you know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, the world is crazy. And so getting back to that spiritual high is like not looking for the high, but I'm looking to build my relationship and get close with God, which I'm still working on today.
Yeah.
Long story short, I ended up relapsing after 2 years. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. You know, they always focus on when you exit is getting a home church, getting into Bible study and your men's group, and staying close with the church and building a community and a family within the church. And I did that in the beginning, but then I started to slowly like back away from it, like backslide. And then I ended up relapsing, and it was another 3 or 4 years of just trying to get sober and feeling that guilt and shame, you know, of, wow, I can't believe I relapsed. I thought I would never relapse in my life. Like, I had it in my head I was never going to relapse, but relapse is a part of a lot of people's story, and it is of mine. I relapsed many times. And then in the middle of that with my wife, so I met my wife when I left that program after I got moved to Bakersfield. They have this reentry program, and basically they help re-enter you back into society, and they give you like a room. You have to use this like really cheap rent, you know, just to help you get back up out into the world. And I met my wife out in Bakersfield because that's where one of the reentry programs was located. So I decided to go to Bakersfield because I was single. I didn't have any family really that was like willing to really take me in, you know, without them seeing actually that I'm doing well for a while on my own. And so went to Bakersfield. That's where I met my wife. And yeah, I mean, I was in the process of like this whole I was backsliding in my relationship with God at the time, still trying to do the right things, meeting my wife at the same time of that, and just getting kind of back to being lost again, not doing what I'm supposed to do, putting God first every single day.
But really quick, so you met her at the program at a church when you were out there, or
no? I actually met my wife on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, which is crazy because I'm not that type of person. I usually like meeting people in person at church or like, you know, wherever I'm at, you know?
Yeah.
And so, do you have enough time? I don't want to keep.
Bro, I'm still digesting my pre-workout meal. Don't worry about it.
Are you
I'll
sure?
let you know. I'll let you know.
I don't want. This is a.
Don't worry about it. I'll let you know when it's time to cut. You good? Don't worry about it.
So yeah, I met my wife in Bakersfield. I met her on Facebook. She was a lightweight drink. She was a lightweight drinker. She drank a little bit, and so I was already in a bad spot of me backsliding away from God. So I figured in my head, like, man, I used to have a drug problem. I never was an alcoholic. I could probably drink and I'll be okay. Nope. Nope. Not at all. And so it started to progress, you know, after I started drinking here and there, then it started getting worse, started getting heavier, you know, drinking on the weekends. And then it was drinking a couple days out of the week. And then it was drinking every day, like literally every day.
And you were at that program in Bakersfield?
No, I wasn't. No, I was. At that moment, I was not. I had exited the program. I had exited the actual reentry program, and I started living on my own. I was doing maintenance for a little hotel over there, so I was doing maintenance on the property there with different things that they needed help with. So they gave me a little room for being the maintenance like supervisor, the person that worked on there. And so, yeah, I was actually by myself. I wasn't in the program anymore.
And you didn't have a church or none of that. You weren't applying what they told you to do.
No, gotcha. I wasn't applying what they told me to do.
That's what gets us, man. When we don't apply God's word, that's what gets us in trouble.
Right. And so, yeah, the drinking got really bad between both of us. My wife, she grew up without a father in her house, which almost like me. I did have my father, but I ended up kind of like losing my father, you could say, at 16. So it was like she didn't have her dad at all. She was raised by a single mom, and she's the oldest, so she had to basically take care of her sisters that were younger than her. So she had to grow up at a young age. She's dealt with some things early in her childhood too. So she drank a little bit. But when I came into the picture and started drinking with her, we both started drinking really heavy. And then at that point, I was just drinking alcoholically, like bad. And then at some point, it was like, if you're like a true drug addict and you end up drinking, you're going to end up reverting back to usually your drug of choice. And so then there was a point I ended up going back to heroin and I started using again. And she's never been with a drug addict, seen drugs, nothing like that. So I brought this whole mess upon her when I relapsed. And I started using. She would start to see me nodding off and wondering what's wrong with me, thinking, hey, what's going on? Like, look, you're like really tired, or what's going on? I don't even understand. And I would just tell her I was tired from work. And then until it got so bad to where she started really thinking there's something going on. And she ended up finding out that I was using, and it just devastated. It just broke the relationship down. And so it put her in more of a state of depression, even more, because she was already kind of depressed from just the drinking and the things that have happened in her childhood. And so there was a point where she had went to treatment before. She went to treatment for alcohol, but she didn't see it as alcohol like treatment. She saw it as like a vacation. She went to Florida one time and went to a program. Her insurance paid for it, like a rehab. And she didn't think that she was an alcoholic then. And so she knew of this program, it's a rehab. And so when we got to our bad point, she said, hey, I've been to this rehab before, like a few years ago. She was like, let me call them and see if we can go. And so usually if you are a couple, or if you have one person that has good insurance and you want to go into a rehab, a lot of times they will let their partner piggyback off them to let them go in, like, because they get paid really well off insurances. So as long as if it's a way to get you there and you want your partner to come, they're going to have your partner come also. So we went to this rehab together, and but they separated us, obviously, but we went to this rehab together. And that's where I got introduced to like AA. And so I wasn't really too fond of AA then, though, there at that point. So I went to this rehab. I've been to many rehabs. We ended up getting out of rehab, and then like 3 months down the road, we ended up relapsing on alcohol again. And it was just this constant battle of trying to stay sober and relapsing, but not putting God first. It's the one thing that we didn't do. And then finally, after going to like, she got sober before me. She has a year longer than me. I ended up relapsing again. And then finally, I was just so beat up again. I was just so broken to where I was like, man, how do I keep on doing this? Like, what is wrong? And so I went to another rehab. And a gentleman there that I met, he passed away a couple years ago due to a fentanyl overdose. He told me about AA. And he told me like, hey, dude, there's some good men in AA. Why don't you just try it out? He was like, I know a lot of people that have stayed sober, that are sober. They're good men there that help you out. So that's where I got introduced to AA. One thing that I took into account, like after doing all this reflection, so I went through AA and I did the 12 steps. And I know about the history of AA, how it was derived from basically, Christian group called the Oxford Group. And they ended up basically making it, basically just a God of your own understanding, so they could allow anybody to go in there, because they could, if they focus it just on Jesus, then it's going to affect people that are from other religions or other backgrounds that don't believe in a specific God, and they wouldn't want to go. So I was still open to go, because for the longest time I didn't want to go. My grandfather, he's got 42 years clean from AA. My older sister, she has 12 years clean from Alcoholics Anonymous, so she goes to church though also, but that program really helped her. So the way that I incorporated in the beginning of my sobriety right now, because on January 13th, I got 5 years. That's the longest I've ever been sober.
Cool.
And basically started going to AA, but I still felt empty. I was going to AA and I wasn't going to church. And I knew that I needed to put Christ first. And so I'd been praying, and there's a couple of churches that I knew about, and I just felt lost still, even though I was sober and I was doing well and taking care of myself and making good choices. I wasn't putting God first. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I wasn't reading the word, and I wasn't doing my morning devotions, and I wasn't listening to the right kind of music all the time, which I still don't. You know, I still struggle with it still to this day. I still listen to secular music, not like bad secular music, like hardcore rap or anything. I can't listen to stuff like that because it just eats at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up praying one day while I've been praying for a while, you know, show us like a home church that we could go to, because I'm the man of the household. And so I have to make better choices so I can provide and be the guiding force in my house for my son and my wife. And so, yeah, I was praying, and I was like, hey, God, you know, show us a home church that we can go to. I really want to go to a, you know, I want to get back and build this relationship, but I want a good church, you know? And so that's where I met Brandon at Gold's Gym. It used to be Gold, it's EOS now, but I met Brandon there. And
one in Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
Good. That's where you're at now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I met Brandon, and it was funny. Just one day I was just working out, and he was like, hey, I think he asked me if I could spot him. Yeah. And then we just started talking about God and just our testimony and stuff. I'm like, oh man. I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a church to go to. He's like, oh, there's Calvary Life. It's not too far from here. He's like, you should check it out one day. And I was like, yeah, for sure. I was like, and this was like 3 months ago.
Okay.
Because I'm still like a newer member in the church, or maybe it was like 4 months ago. No, it was like 3 months ago, probably. And so my wife and I went, and man, we loved it. You know, we loved Pastor Chet and the way that he brought the word, and that the way I don't like, how do I say this? I don't like no fluff. I like the word being spit from the pastor the way that it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? That doesn't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
when somebody, you know, brings the word, brings the message, they're supposed to bring it with conviction. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't just be like, oh, it's okay to live life this way, you're still going to go to heaven. Like, no, that's not what the word says. Like, sorry, you know? And so I love the way that he brought the word, and I'm introduced to different members there. And I was like, man, I love this place. And so we went again, and I was like, yeah, I love this church. We're going to make this our home church. And then I was like, I didn't know the whole process of the men's groups. So I just knew that there was the time where the men meet the first Tuesday, or the men and the women meet the first Tuesday of the month. I was like, see, and this is me thinking ahead or assuming. I was like, why are they only meeting on the first Tuesday of every month and not like at least have like a week, or, you know what I mean? Like once a week. And so that's all I had to do was ask. You know what I mean? Or go to the first Tuesday of the month and realize that, oh, that there's little set groups within there that you get linked up with. And so, yeah, man, that's pretty much it. You know, I didn't want to talk your ear off too much, but yeah, we're just building our relationship back with God. And there's a bunch of things that I still struggle with today. Like, I'm far from perfect, far from perfect. There's so many things that God needs to purge me from. You know, I'm not going to say here that I am even close to perfect. I still cuss, and I still am trying to work on that. And, you know, I listen to some secular music here and there, but it's not secular to where it's degrading, or it's like, you know, it's just not talking, it's not glorifying God.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that I say and that I do and that I deal with on a day-to-day basis where I'm like, man, God, help me with this. You know, please just help me, you know, be there for me. And it's a process, man. It is.
It takes time.
It does. It does take time. And I'm just trying to get back to that strong relationship that I had towards when I was in Teen Challenge, because that was just like, the sad part is it probably never will be, because the way that the environment is over there,
right?
You're around people 24/7 that are just on a Jesus high, which is kind of hard to do in the world. But
yeah, I mean, the best advice I can give you, the key is to what we talked about earlier, like applying what you've learned. That's the key, because you notice when you stopped applying, that's when things went south for you, right? So applying what you're learning from church. And I can only speak from personal experience, bro. When I started to serve, and when I started getting involved in the men's group with Ken, that's what just took me to that next level to where I'm at now. And if that's what I would. I know your schedule. You kind of told me how your schedule works, but
Yeah, that's the
if you
only
can get
bummer.
involved, if you can get involved somehow to serve and get involved in the group. Unfortunately, you never got a chance to come to one of the Ken's groups we were doing on Tuesdays, especially now that we're shutting down or whatever. But I don't know if you got the text. We're going to kind of split off into our little sections. Like I'm going to be doing one of the groups. I don't know who else is going to be doing little groups from Ken, but getting involved, bro. Trust me, getting involved with other brothers is going to be cool. I think someone that it would be good for you too would be like Steve, because you bodybuilds as well,
right?
So you have that the faith and fitness. But I mean, you can still relate to other brothers even though they don't work out. But
yeah, for sure, definitely.
But definitely, in Ken's group, man. Oh, there was so many good brothers, man. Anywhere between 15 to 30 people at a time, and it was really, really, really good. You might have had one or two brothers that worked out, but regardless, though, it was really, really good, man. You got to find yourself that, because it's a big church,
right?
You're not gonna be able to be BFS with everybody. As long as you get like a small handful of good brothers that you can relate to, and you just have that connection with, and you guys talk and meet up weekly, man, it's gonna make a big difference. They'll hold you accountable. You can reach out like, hey, bro, I'm having struggles with this and blah, blah, blah. But if you do the Lone Ranger, I did that for many, many years, the Lone Ranger. Bro, I was struggling and losing and getting my butt kicked all the time. Yep. And eventually you want to get to a point where you can have someone mentor you, and then eventually you can mentor someone else.
Other people.
Have an older brother pour into you, then you can pour into a younger brother. Right. That's I love that. That's where God has me right now. Ken mentors me, and then I can mentor into a couple other little brothers that I work with. So eventually, you want to get to that. You want someone that's gonna that one main guy that's gonna meet with you and just do life with you, and it doesn't always have to be about teaching the Bible, but just living it out. And that's what Ken does.
And you just
Ken teaches me how to live how to live out the Christian faith, how to apply all that stuff. So eventually, you would want to get somebody like that. And just try to get involved as much as you can. I get it. You have a family. That's your number one ministry is your family. Set the example and just do the best you can to serve and just get your group to meet with and talk to. And,
so I just really got to get a lot strict with certain things though, too. That'll help with because my schedule is just really, it's not sporadic. It's just, there's so many different things that are going on. Like, so my wife, she's going to school and working at the same time.
Yeah.
She works from home. And so she just got her diploma from Chico State. Mm-hmm. But she still has to do 2 or 3 more classes for summer school. Like the school didn't want her to wait till next year to receive her diploma. So she's received her diploma, but she still has to do 2 to 3 more classes before she's actually gets her bachelor's.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that's been kind of, I don't want to even blame it on that, because it's almost like I feel like I'm blaming it on something where it's like my wife has a lot of different things going on throughout the day, and then she has school. So I have to watch my kid or do something to where it's like, it almost prevents me from doing it. But I need to find a way. I need to find a solution on either taking him somewhere or bringing him with me, so then I can go do my own thing on the certain days of like the men's group or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I seen you a couple of videos you working out with your baby.
On my off days, I always.
I'm sure no one would mind if you take your son to a men's Bible study or a men's fellowship. I'm sure no one would mind, bro. Ain't no one gonna mind off of that. So, but yeah, okay, cool. Let's finish up with. I always like to end it with. Give us some words of wisdom. Everything you said, you like to reflect on everything you've been through in life.
Well, you're putting me on
and how the Lord has helped you and got you to where you're at now. Give us some wisdom for someone who may have grown up like you, or maybe struggling with weight, with drugs, with whatever that you went through. Can you give them some encouraging words and some final wisdom?
Some encouraging words. Man, the one thing that a couple things that I can think of, it'd be number one, never give up. You know what I mean? There's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be something there that you're going to learn through the trials that you go through if you have an open mind. You know what I mean? There's some people that are just tunnel vision where they just feel like they're going through something and they don't see like the bigger picture on why it's happening. So having an open mind and like there's light at the end of the tunnel, but just persistence, consistency, obviously putting God first, every single day. And that's tough to do, and to getting in that habit. It really is. A lot of people, it's hard being a Christian. A lot of people think it's like this easy sunshine rainbows. It's like, no, it is when you actually figure out like what the word is, who Jesus is, and you dig into the word and you're really trying to apply that to your life. Everything that's in, obviously we're not going to be able to get every single thing, we're going to fall short, we're going to sin, there's things that are going to happen, or we're not going to put God first. But yeah, applying that, what you said earlier, applying that to your life, application. But sanctification is just a huge one, being set apart and trying to be as holy as possible, but the things that I went through, other things is just persistence and consistency, and don't give up. There's always somebody out there that loves you, that want to help you, that wants to be there for you, that wants the best for you, and yeah, sorry for talking this long, man.
Don't worry about it. It's usually about an hour anyway, so don't worry about it. Okay. It's all good. All right, brother. Thank you for your time, and we'll stay in touch.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Bye.
God bless you too.